So I was having a conversation a couple of days ago, and some really interesting points came up. Um, Previously, if you've listened, I spoke about the belief of someone who's going into a leadership position, and my example that I was using was if someone who was in the military believed that they had superior leadership skills to someone who'd never been in the military, possibly the thing that made them better was the fact that they believed they were going to be better and not the actual traits themselves that they got. Anyway, on that subject, I read another study. I'll have to get I have to find it somewhere, the actual reference for it. And it was about women in leadership. Super, super interesting. So it said that um, women generally don't do as well in leadership positions, mainly due to this one reason. Now, it said that women have got naturally some traits that would be very, very good to be in leadership roles, but they said that because the majority of women grow up in an environment where the majority of leaders are men, and the people they see in leadership positions are men, and they grow up being told that men are superior leaders, or just subconsciously that's how they perceive it as a child. When they get when a woman gets to a certain age and she wants to be a leader, the problem she has is she doesn't fully believe herself. Deep down in her core, there's a tiny part of her that niggles and says that has this little doubt, and because of that doubt, she doesn't fulfill her potential. So the reason that women overall struggle to be on average as good leaders as men is because men don't believe women are as good, and then therefore women grow up believing they're not as good as well. So if women have more belief in themselves and more faith in their ability, and the biggest problem with that is men had more faith in women, then women would women would probably be very, very, very good leaders, but they don't believe in themselves. So when a woman does get put into a leadership position, she might be thrown in at the deep end and just told, yeah, go on then. You think you can do it, be a leader. And she might not have the experience of being in a leadership position because she's just been thrown in the deep end. And then she fails, and then they say, see, couldn't do it. And whether they say it or not, they might think it, like a lot of men. So I think the issue isn't that women can't lead, it's that men don't believe women can lead. Majority of men, especially older men. And then because of that, women end up believing it themselves. And it's just this complete vicious circle of women trying to break that cycle. But if women don't believe it themselves, some do, but then they go too far. And then you end up bordering on those lunatic feminists who say, we can do everything that men can. And it's like, oh, just be you. Stop trying to be someone else. So yeah, that was a super interesting study that I saw that I read on leaders believing in their own ability, and in this instance, women. So yeah, I thought that was incredibly interesting, especially with what I talked about the other day in terms of military. People in the military believe in themselves. So next thing I wrote, I was thinking about a lot of academics who write about leadership and a lot of studies on leadership and a lot of people who have opinions on leadership. And there were two analogies that I thought of about how I feel about a lot of leadership studies. So, like I said before, some people have done some amazing stuff, but there are. I feel that there is this in academia. There is this in general, not just in leadership, but just in general. There's this huge um, umbrella of academics who do a lot of studies. They then release their work, and then when I have been asked to write stuff, it is or do some research, it is you need to continue on from existing information. You need to add to it. What if that information is wrong? What if it's wrong? And people will say, well, it can't be. They've done the research, they've done the data, no one can prove them wrong. But what if they're using data that sets up that answer? So they're not using the correct data. So that you can't prove someone wrong if the data they're using comes to that conclusion, but that's not the correct data. So an example I've got of it is, I think I mentioned it previously, but I'm going to mention it again because I've kind of come up with a bit of a better analogy now. And it was, if you had five police detectives and you said to them, here's the murder, here's the 10 suspects we have, here's the murder weapon, the choice of murder weapons, and here are the choice of locations. A bit like Cluedo the game. And you said, who is it? And they all do their investigation, and they all come up with the same answer, roughly. And they all decide, like a jury, this was the person that did it. This is the one that did it. We've all come to the same conclusion. We've all done it independently. We've all got the evidence, and that is it. And they all deny they did it, but none of them have got any alibis, and now you found your murder victim. That is it. String him up. What if, after you'd all come to that conclusion, and then I said to you, it's interesting you say that, because there was an 11th person, and I already know that they did it. But I didn't give you that person's details. That person wasn't in the investigation. But you, because you were given those set details to begin with, you've gone, right, it has to be one of these 10. So you're looking within the box. You're not looking outside of the box and going, are there other options? Now, I find that this happens a lot, and when someone studies anything, they will have kind of bias that they developed when they were younger. So, for example, if someone grows up in a country where, to them, a leader is someone in a military uniform, or a leader is someone who is white, male, dressed in a suit. If that's what your perception of leadership is, then you're not going to be able to change. Like, you're going to be starting from that position of, well, we have this good leader, this good leader, this good leader, this good leader, this good leader. You've got 5 leaders there, and you go, what have they all got in common? Where are the trends? I'm going to use some statistical analysis and find what they've all got in common. But you're only going by what you've seen. And you go, well, yeah, but they were all good. They all achieved this. But again, you're going by what there has been and what you've seen and what you grew up with and what your culture has created. You're not going by what technically is right. Take those previous experiences out of it, take emotion out of it, take bias out of it, all of that. And then look at it and say, is this, because this is all I've ever known, I have experience in this one thing, but that doesn't mean it has to be, that is what a great leader is. So I kind of feel that a lot of people are starting from a position of not having the correct data. Because if you're only using men, and you're only using men who are in either politics or the military, that's a very small pool of people that you're looking at. And these are also people that have been within the military. You're promoted from above, and within politics, you're promoted from below. To a degree, you're kind of like voted in by your group. So you've got 2 different ways of creating a leader in that environment. And the data that you're now using, you're not including, you're not looking at what the evidence is in terms of, a small local club where someone was an incredibly good leader and did some amazing things. Again, you need to figure out what the definition is of a leader. Is it someone that can work under pressure? Is it someone that can longevity? What makes someone a good leader? So I do believe a lot of people, especially in academia, are looking at it from a, well, this is the existing data, I'm going to add upon it. But what if that data is just wrong upon wrong upon wrong? Kind of like when you build a house. If you get that first brick wrong, and then you get to the end and you go, oh, it doesn't work. And then you follow it back to what the cause is. It was the first brick. I kind of get that feeling sometimes when I read stuff. And it really, I don't know, it bugs me a little bit because it's like everyone takes it as matter of fact now. Academics have agreed it is research, it's proof, it's this, it's that. I'm not quite sure. I think that's wrong. I mean, another way that I looked at it was if I sat down with someone and I said, have you got a pet? And they go, yeah, I've got a pet. You go, oh, me too. I love pets. What pet have you got? Or what's your favourite thing about your pet? They go, oh, I love his ears. Really? Oh, I love my pet's tail. Oh, me too, me too. How many legs has your pet got? 4? Oh, brilliant. Do you brush his hair? Yeah, I do. Okay, cool. They got 2 eyes? Yeah, okay. Loves playing with a ball. Oh, mine loves playing with a ball. And then mine eats meat, eats meat and gravy, eats say 8 p.m. every night. Oh, mine too. Yours sit on your lap at night? Yeah, mine does. Mine sits on my lap and keeps you warm. Yeah. Loves licking my face. Yeah, oh, I love my pet too. What's your pet's name? Dave. My pet's name is Dave too. Oh my word, it's like we've got the same pet. How about we meet up tomorrow? It could even be the same pet, we don't know. Okay, meet up tomorrow and you go, oh, shit. Yours is a dog. Mine was a cat. We didn't even get to that point. So it's kind of, I know I've discussed this before, but it's just, I feel that there is so much of this where people are kind of looking at all the data and going, yeah, it's the same, it's the same, it's the same, it's the same. This is the conclusion. But it's not the same thing. Is a Ford Fiesta the same as a Lamborghini? No. But if you said, right, have they got engines? Have they got wheels? Have they got steering wheel? Have they got windscreen? Have they got wing mirrors? Have they got exhaust pipe? And you go, oh, they're the same. They're not the same. They're two completely different things. Yes, they're both cars, but they're most definitely not the same. So, yeah, there is a lot of that, I believe. I'll tell you something else that I find interesting. There was a study. Not a study, actually. Not a study. I read a story. I've read quite a few stories. I do, obviously, involved in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and there's a lot of the stories about the challenge matches where people from different martial arts would go to the Gracie garage or the Gracie schools and challenge them to a fight. And a lot of these martial artists would, you might have someone who's done karate 30 years, turns up, has a fight, loses the first one within a minute. No, I slipped, let's do it again. My bad, time out, let's go again. They go again, they lose this time in less than a minute. Now this is wrong, let me do it again. Refresh, time out, let's go again. Third time, same happens. Fourth time, same happens. And they can't comprehend that what they've dedicated their life to for 30 years isn't working. It's kind of like if you took two people who are having an argument about religion, they can't prove each other wrong. and they can't prove themselves right. So it's kind of like it ends there, and it's just an ongoing forever argument. Whereas this isn't. This is, we're going to fight, and we're going to see whose martial art works the best. So they did that. They had the fight, and then the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu would beat the kickboxing, beat the karate, beat the Aikido, Taekwondo, beat all these different martial arts. And it's very difficult for someone to admit that they dedicated something, 30s of their life to something that, yes, it works against the average person. Someone who's got no martial arts training, you're going to beat them. Someone who's done the same martial art for less time than you, you're going to beat them. But you go against someone who's done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at a certain level, you're going to lose. It could be someone who's done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 2 years and you've done karate 30 years. I'm not saying that's the case. Depends on the size of the person, the age of the person, all that sort of stuff. But overall, one martial art kept beating the others, and they couldn't admit it. Now, I find this is the same with academics that, a few academics, they write a book, they get something published, they then cling on to that as their identity for the rest of their life, and they're not open-minded. They're kind of like, this is who I am. I wrote this paper, and this is me. Okay, so you're not open to being wrong. No. This is how I identify now. I've written a book on it, and that is that. It's kind of like Einstein coming up with the theory of relativity, and then 10 years later someone coming to him and saying, actually, I've proven it wrong. And him going, no, you haven't. Anyone intelligent would go, really? Show me. You show them, and they go, wow, okay. And then they want to find the next thing. They're constantly searching. But a lot of these people stumble across something that they get a little bit of attention for and just kind of go, yeah, that's it. That's me now. I'm not gonna be open-minded at all whatsoever. That is where I stand on that forever. And there was one person in particular that one particular academic author, I won't mention him, but he was convinced that he was determined to say that leaders were the same as managers. And I said to him, you're mad. It's like they're two completely different things. Completely different things. I said, one's a pusher, the other's a puller. They're both magnets, but one's a positive and one's a negative. One's persuades you, gets given instructions and persuades you how you're going to do them. The other one just does stuff and everyone follows them. I said, they're two different things. A pusher and a puller. A manager and a leader. Two completely different roles. And it's not to say one is better than the other. Like I said previously, they're two separate things. It's like saying a mum and a dad. Or a carpenter and an electrician. They're two separate things. Two separate roles completely. One final thing that I want to start looking at, because I'm finding it really fascinating at the moment, is the study of, or the concept of, alphas. These people that are, well, let's not say these people. Let's say that there are a lot of people out there who will say, oh, so-and-so, he's an alpha. What does that mean? What do you mean by an alpha? I really want to know what the general consensus is of the definition of an alpha. What is an alpha? Is it someone who's got a great tan, goes to the gym, bit of a dick to everyone, makes people feel really intimidated? Because that to me is a bully. What do you mean by alpha? The person in charge? Not really. If you've got someone who's that big one in the tank top, like I said, with the tattoos, and he's in charge, but then he's got this tiny little mate who walks in, he's the one that owns the gun. Who's the alpha? Is it the toughest? Is an alpha a positive thing, or is alpha really a secret name for absolute dickhead who just bullies people. Is that what alpha, the other definition, is that what it means? Is that the definition of alpha? So I think this whole concept of someone being an alpha and then being the leader, I think is really bad, because I've never seen anyone be. No, I take it back. I have seen people be an alpha in the room and they're not saying a word. But what do I mean by alpha? I think it would be the person who's got the most powerful energy. But then, it sounds harsh to say, a lot of very primitive people can't feel that energy of a person who's quite got that aura around them. If you've ever stood next to someone who's, been about and done some violent things, and they've calmed down, they've got that energy about them. They're very, very calm, and there's just a danger about them. But then some people can't see it, some people can't read it, some people can't feel it. That to me, that composure, that power, that to me would be an alpha. But there might be someone small, dressed in a suit, talks quite quietly, quite passively, but they're the most dangerous person in the room. So is that what it is? Potentially most dangerous person? Or is it, I like the phrase that I think it was Jordan Peterson said, it's better to be, I'm pretty sure he's probably taking it from somewhere else. If not, then kudos to him, but it's better to be a dangerous... No, because there's the warrior in the garden quote, which is a very old quote. But his was, you want to be a monster, but you want to... No, you don't want to be a monster, but you want to have the ability to be able to be a monster. Something like that. I can't remember what it was. But essentially, you want to be, like the quote says, you want to be... It's better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in war, or something like that. So you want to be able to be a monster, but have it under control. And is that what an alpha is? So I really want to start studying what people say an alpha is. So that's probably my next rabbit hole I'm going down. That's going to be my next obsession, alphas. I really, really want to do some studies on that. So probably going to do some... I'd love to do some quantitative analysis, quantitative research on it, and just get people's opinions and get a big questionnaire going somewhere online. Probably open it up and just... It's very difficult because when you're doing questionnaire, you can only really ask closed questions. You don't have to. You could probably ask one open question, but when you're asking closed questions, you're pushing people into an answer, and that's not what you want. I really just want to say to someone, what is an alpha? I suppose I could say that. It could be it could be just one question, or it could be a couple of questions, so you kind of get the mind of the person. So it could be, age, gender, origin of or birthplace of your parents. I think is a very important one. Religion, I think, is quite an important one, because some people with different religions, that kind of determines their culture, and then generally what their view is of the world. But sorry, really tired. So yeah, I really want to find out what people think an alpha is. I want to get to the bottom of that. That's interesting me at the moment. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to ask a few people that, but I'll leave you to it. Just wanted to share those little bits. Little bits have been going around in my head, and yeah, got some exciting stuff coming up soon. So can't wait to share it.